Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're working with the Autosport Labs Shiftx3 tack slash gear position slash alert display. So the idea here is we're gonna create a mount for the Shiftx on top of the dash. Actually made one yesterday. Didn't like the way it turned out, so we're going to a different design here. And thinking that we're gonna create some brackets that mount here, come up, and then hold the Shiftx in place. So this is inspired by STI Hacker. He's also on Instagram. I'll put a link to his profile below. He was the one that gave me the idea as to how to mount this Shiftx3. So first things first is got to figure out the position of the mounting brackets and make some out of some aluminum flat plate that we have over here. So let's move over to the bench. So as far as I could tell, STI Hacker used some double-sided tape to adhere some L brackets to kind of the dash kind of hood. I think I want something a little more permanent, so either I'm going to drill this, which looks like I definitely have space for, or I'm going to try to use the existing holes. Kind of lined up the holes with the Shiftx, and it looks like the Shiftx is slightly wider. So if I were to use these holes, the brackets would have to come out slightly at an angle like this, and then I'd have to bend it upwards. The other problem is I've got this curve here, so if I make a 90-degree bend, the brackets are going to be flared out like this, right? So we'd be looking at brackets flaring out like that, and so I need to somehow, I can mount them like that, and maybe shave off the bracket where it meets the Shiftx3, or I can try to twist the bracket and kind of see how that turns out. I've got some kind of flat bar that I used yesterday, so I'm going to hook this up to the vise and see what twisting the bracket would potentially look like. So let me go grab that right now. So it's not too bad. So I went ahead and just dropped the flat bar in, tightened down the vise, bent it over. You actually used a hammer to flatten, give myself like a better angle or a better 90-degree. Kind of overdid it a little bit, and then once it was in, pulled down on the bar in one direction and gave it a twist. And it looks pretty good. I'm expecting something like this to happen on the corner, but I think it's going to work. Right, so this would come in, mount kind of there, and then kind of come up. Obviously needs to be longer, but looks pretty good. So I think what I'm gonna do is chop this off and give myself like a clean edge to work with, and then see if we can bend an actual bracket here. Okay, flat bar is hooked into the chop saw, and we'll just give it a quick cut here. Pretty much all I really wanted was a nice clean edge to work with, and that should do. Alright, so I got to figure out how long to make this before I bend it, and then I got to keep in mind that when this hood is actually in the dash comes out slightly further, right? So maybe whatever I decide this length is going to be plus 10 millimeters is actually how long it should be. So we'll see here. We'll try to figure this out. A little bit of trial and error, I think, in general. So let's say 55 millimeters is roughly where I want to bend it. Now the other thing is, this doesn't have to be a hard 90-degree bend because of the way the hood's angled and the dash. So I'm going to go maybe like a 60-degree bend and then do the twist and see where that gets me. So that looks pretty good. So in terms of the depth into the visor or the hood, looks good. There's a little bit of space here to clear the dash, which is great. If you look at it from this angle though, you know, we don't want the Shiftx to be forward, we want it back, so there's probably going to be a secondary bend that has to happen here. Okay, so the first bend occurred at 55 millimeters. The second one's a little bit tougher. I think the Shiftx plus the hood plus the dash is about 45 millimeters, right? Then there's going to be a bend going back, so that's going to take a little bit of extra space, and then I want some height also. So I'm going to arbitrarily choose a length, and I think that length is going to be 80. And then as we move forward, we can make adjustments. I'd rather cut down the bracket than have to start all over. So, I'm going to go ahead and throw this on the chop saw here real quick and cut this off. Okay, so it's been cut. Right on the line, pretty good. Love that chop saw. And now I'm going to bring this into the car and kind of just get a feel of how this looks and whether or not this is the right length and what we got to do next. Alright, so let's take a look here. That dash is going to clip in like that. I don't want to push it all the way in and have to take it out again. Give or take roughly like that. Comes up. And ooh, it is super long. Actually, no, not too bad actually. But I do want this to be pushed. So what I can do is once it's in here, I can kind of twist it like that if I want, or I can twist it in this way. What to do, what to do. All right, so I think the next step here is probably to make another bracket for this side. And then hopefully I can use at least these screws to grab it. There might be a chance it's not going to happen here. Might have to get longer ones. But I just want to hold it there so I can start playing around with it and positioning it. But yeah, I'm going to make another one of these right now. Okay, so now that I have my two brackets, I need to drill the holes, and it's going to be a little bit challenging here because this is recessed into the dash, this kind of like hood, so there's the portion of the dash that sticks out over here, and then obviously I want to give myself a little bit of space to be able to turn this, to rotate the bracket to make everything fit. So it's a little bit of a guessing game, and at the same time we need both of these brackets to be roughly in the same plane. We can do some bending to make it fit better, but we kind of want it to look symmetrical. So I'm gonna kind of wing it, and we'll see what happens. Worst case, we can kind of make the hole a little round, and so we can have some play in the brackets, and then we can tighten everything down. But we'll see here. All right, so kind of eyeballed it. This is, I think, where I want the depth of the bracket. Gonna give it a quick punch here. Unfortunately, I don't have a center punch. This is a drive punch. But something is better than nothing, so hopefully this drill bit doesn't walk. And this bit is a 5/32 bit, so I think this is the size of the screw that holds the hood into the dash. Ooh, let's get a clamp. Gotta hold everything together. Okay. All right, there's our hole here. Let me go get the screw. Ah. All right, screw doesn't fit, so we're gonna go up a size. Okay, this is 13/64. That might be it. There we go. Perfecto. Okay, so the question now is, how do I roughly get my hole in the same spot? I guess it doesn't have to be perfect. My bends are slightly different here. And likely what I'm going to do after I have the Shiftx3 mounted up here is I'm going to cut extra material off, kind of make it look nice, or at least try to make it look nice. You can see my bends are slightly off. I like this bend more, but we're going to have to bend it again anyway. All right, and does it fit? Yes. Okay, let's go see if these screws are long enough to engage that hood section there. Let's go see. All right, let's take a peek here. All right, there we go. So it's roughly like that. We'll need to bend a little more, right? But that's okay. So we need to twist it out. All right. All right, so what I'm seeing here is that the right side bracket, it's nice and flat against the Shiftx, but not so much on the left side. So we're going to need to do a little bit of twisting on these to make them on the same plane, which is okay. Otherwise, it looks pretty good. It's actually not too bad. So I'm going to twist them here really quick, try to level them out onto the same plane before we do anything else. Okay, so one quick little twist later. Oh, we're pretty close. We're pretty dang close. That's pretty good. We can make that work. Now we got to mark off where to drill. And this part can be kind of hard. Because I don't have a good way of marking where to drill through the Shiftx. So it's going to be a little bit of a guess. I'm going to make a mark with my drill bit. Hold that there. And we'll mark our drill bit over here. Okay. I wish there was a better way to do this. All right, I'm gonna go drill this out and I'll be right back. All right, guys, so I have had to go run an errand really quick. That's why it's all sunny now. But I marked off where I think we need to drill the holes for the Shift3X or Shiftx3. So we're just gonna go for it here. Sorry about the lawnmower in the back. Perfect. All right, let's go test this out in the car. All right, so ran to the store, got slightly longer screws. These are number 10 screws, I think, and mine are about I think an inch long. Okay. And what I'm using are wing nuts to hold the machine screws on the back of the Shiftx3. So there we have it. So there's some room to cut some material off here at the top. That actually looks pretty good. So I do want to create a nice line here, so I'm going to cut this excess material off. I may try to bend this back a little bit before I do that. And then the last thing would be to sand it and paint it. So we'll go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so unfortunately I cannot use the chop saw to cut at a slight angle. So I'm going to have to use the Dremel. So it's going to take a little bit longer here. It should be pretty quick, so here we go. Well, I guess while that cools, we can cut this one. Okay, so I went ahead and cut some material off the top of the bracket at an angle, and then sanded everything down a little bit. And hopefully it just sits behind the Shiftx3 and you can't really see it, the bracket at least. I don't know, it just kind of looked a little ugly sticking past the Shiftx. And since I have all the tools I had to kind of cut and to sand and all that, might as well take the time to do it so I don't have to come back out and do it again. And I think that looks pretty good. You can kind of see this edge right here. But at the same time, I also want to bend this back slightly. All right, so let's see here. Let's tighten everything down and see what we get. All right, so I can see this, but if I bend this back, probably won't be able to see it. Let's see, how's that looking there? It's not perfectly symmetrical, but who am I joking? What are the chances I was going to pull that off? So yeah, I think the last step is to kind of bend it here. I want to make the bend roughly here and here. Bend it back and then test fit it again. And it should look pretty good, and that is going to be our mount for the Shiftx3. So we are going to paint it here flat black, and I'll go ahead and do the rest of the final stuff off camera. I think you guys have seen enough of how I've been going about this to be able to do it yourself if you so choose to. And then you know, I'll paint it, let it dry, and then we'll mount it and show you in the final shot. All right, guys, that just about wraps up the fabrication or wannabe fabrication of a mounting bracket for the Shiftx3. Hopefully, if any of you guys are looking at installing one, you find it helpful. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask. And as always, thank you very much for watching. We will see you at the next video. Here are some photos.